That's what it's looking like here, John. It's nice and sunny. What about where you are?
Carol, we are at Duxford in Cambridgeshire at the Imperial War Museum here. This, of course, is a decoter, a C47. It's the American and we always call them decoters. There were 800 of these used at the airborne invasion of northern France, deploying around 22,000 troops. Some in gliders towed behind the aircraft, some obviously jumping out through the door. On the night, and many of them took off tonight, 75 years ago, just before midnight. Well, actually about 10 o'clock, some of them first took off because so many aircraft had to come together on the 5th of June. The doors weren't even fitted. This is where the paratroopers would come out. There's a cable that runs the length of the fuselage. They clip on their parachutes. There are two lights here, a red and a green. Green obviously for go, and that was the signal for the loadmaster to initiate the point at which all of the paratroopers jumped out. One of the men who jumped on that day, Harry Reid, we'll be talking to him later on in breakfast today. In fact, he will be jumping out of a plane again later today because 22 of these aircraft will be flying across the channel to recreate in a much smaller scale the flight over northern France. Harry, 95 years old, will be jumping out of these once again. What, something like 3/4 of a century after his first jump over northern France? Let's meet him. In 1944, a 20-year-old paratrooper was training for D-Day. His army paybook shows how some of his training took place at Netheravon Airfield in Wiltshire. 75 years on, and Harry Reid has returned to Netheravon and is about to return to parachuting.
It's great to meet you too.
I'm Dean, the team sergeant.
Now, as then, Harry's turned out immaculately, but these days his uniform is that of the Salvation Army, and his jump today will raise money for it. He meets his modern-day equivalents, paratroopers from the US and the UK, who will jump alongside him and who have much in common.
You had to push hard enough to miss the back of the hole, so that your parachute didn't push you forward, because that banged your nose on the other side, which they called ringing the bell, by the way.
We all go through tough training, and then at the end of the day, it's our jobs to jump out of airplanes behind enemy lines, and it's something that we look back on and we always remember they were the trailblazers.
The first men to move in on the Normandy coastline.
His thoughts at this time of year turn to those comrades who never returned from northern France, and despite his age, he was fully aware of what he was being ordered to do on that day.
I came to the conclusion, very seriously, to my own satisfaction, that I would shirk nothing, I wouldn't surrender. If I had to have my little fight with the Germans on my own, I'd do it and die. That I would be true to the traditions that had grown up around our kind of unit, and I'd pay the price if necessary.
D-Day was a low-level jump from a Dakota plane. Today, Harry will exit the same aircraft type, but will free-fall, attached to one of the Red Devils display team. He's done one before last autumn, but was 94 then. Now he's 95, but still young at heart.
It's going to be cool to see his reactions jumping out of a plane, out of the same area that he jumped. All these stories that we hear about guys jumping in World War II, and it's going to be amazing to see his reaction. So.
It was amazing with all that time, with as long ago as it was, the amount of detail that he still remembered.
Yep.
That was quite amazing.
Airborne troops talk of a brotherhood, a unique bond, the same for these young men today as it was for the tens of thousands of young men 3/4 of a century ago.